Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is about to hit new all-time highs against the US dollar and is already hitting new all-time highs against multiple other fiat currencies, while BlackRock just bought a record amount of Bitcoin, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside Ethereum also about to break out towards new all-time highs, and multiple other altcoins are poised for major breakouts. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, we need to take a look at the Bitcoin ETF news today, because over the last one day, BlackRock bought a record amount of Bitcoin, because just over the last one day, BlackRock bought well over $600 million worth of Bitcoin in just one single day. And so overall, just yesterday on the 28th of February, we saw a total net inflow just yesterday of around $673 million US dollars. Because as we can see here with the Bitcoin ETF flows, once again with Bybit, which is the BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF, there was around a $612 million inflow just yesterday into the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. And then there was also around $250 million inflow going into the Fidelity Bitcoin ETF, into FBTC. Meanwhile, the Grayscale outflow was a little over $200 million. So of course, there's still a lot of outflows coming out of Grayscale, but once again, that is clearly being outnumbered by the inflows going into other ETFs, mainly BlackRock and Fidelity. And so overall, factoring in all of the inflows and outflows for yesterday, once again, this comes to a total of a net inflow of around $673 to $674 million US dollars just yesterday. And in case you're new to all of this, in case you're new to this channel, basically this net inflow essentially means these ETF providers like BlackRock and Fidelity, for example, are having to buy that much money worth of Bitcoin just yesterday, just in one single day. Because essentially how it works is that money, that $670 million, has come outside of the market. That's come from other investors or institutions that are buying the Bitcoin ETF shares, like Bybit, for example. And then that money goes to BlackRock if they're buying the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF shares, or if they're buying the Fidelity ETF shares, FBTC, that money goes to Fidelity. And then essentially what Fidelity and BlackRock and other ETF providers have to do with that money is they have to actually buy Bitcoin on the spot market, spot Bitcoin, to back the ETFs. And essentially they can only ever sell that Bitcoin if there's outflows coming out of the ETFs. So basically, if all of those other investors that are buying the ETF shares, if they withdraw their money out of those shares, if they get their money out of the ETFs, then the ETF providers can sell Bitcoin to pay out those funds in US dollars. And so there's a lot of people out there that are thinking that BlackRock, for example, is buying all of this Bitcoin with their own money, and they're trying to buy low and sell high, and soon enough they're going to sell all their Bitcoin to dump on the market. But that is not at all how this works. Because even if they wanted to, BlackRock cannot sell any of this Bitcoin unless investors actually pull their funds out of the ETF, which as of right now is not happening. We're still seeing massive inflows coming into the ETFs, which is causing massive buying pressure for Bitcoin. And in fact, just over the last 3 days, just this week so far, not including today, just over the last 3 days, once again, we've seen the Bitcoin ETFs overall have a net inflow of over $1.7 billion US dollars in just the last 3 days. And so at this rate, we're talking over $2 billion a week coming into Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin, and this is new money coming into Bitcoin, pumping the price much higher. And so as I've been saying over and over again here on the channel, it will be very hard to see any decent sized pullback in the price of Bitcoin if we're seeing this much buying pressure coming into Bitcoin every single weekday. And now, of course, on weekends and on holidays, when the stock market's basically closed, that is when the Bitcoin ETFs are not trading, which means that's pretty much our only chance at the moment of seeing any short-term pullback or sideways consolidation. But other than that, once again, on weekdays, Monday to Friday, if the stock market's open and the Bitcoin ETFs are trading, if we're still seeing these massive inflows, then honestly, I would not be expecting any significant pullback, at least while we're seeing these massive inflows. And so this is definitely something important to consider on top of just looking at the Bitcoin charts, because obviously if the Bitcoin charts are looking bearish or whatever, clearly $1.7 billion flowing into Bitcoin in just 3 days will pump the price of Bitcoin much higher. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts, looking at the weekly Bitcoin chart, clearly right now the price of Bitcoin is pumping to the upside exactly as expected. And right now we're breaking further to the upside above that previous 78.6% Fibonacci level, which was sitting at around 57 to 58K approximately. And so ultimately, the next resistance above the current price here on the weekly time frame is essentially the all-time high itself, which is sitting at close to $69,000. And so obviously at this pace, we could see the price of Bitcoin break into new all-time highs against the US dollar, honestly, any day now if we continue to see those massive Bitcoin inflows through those Bitcoin ETFs. And so once again, I'm still very bullish on the larger timeframes in terms of the larger trend at play, like the weekly chart, for example. I'm still very bullish, as I've been saying here on the channel, since all the way back down here at the beginning of 2023. You can even check my videos back then on the channel. That is where I flipped extremely bullish in terms of the larger trend at play. But even though the price of Bitcoin is still sitting just below the all-time high against the US dollar, if we're taking a look at Bitcoin against the Australian dollar, we're actually already breaking out to the upside above the previous all-time high, and Bitcoin versus the Japanese yen is already smashing past the previous all-time high. And so at this point, in a lot of countries around the world, Bitcoin is already sitting in all-time highs and breaking into fresh new all-time highs. But right now, once again, we're still waiting for that all-time high breakout against the US dollar. But at the current pace, once again, it's likely going to happen very soon. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, obviously right now we're still trending in the bullish direction with a lot of bullish momentum here in the daily Bitcoin MACD, as I've been saying here on the channel. And so honestly, there's nothing much else to say here about Bitcoin on the daily time frame. We're still trending bullish with a lot of bullish momentum. But other than that, obviously the RSI at the moment is still in overbought territories. But once again, that does not mean that we're at a top in the price of Bitcoin or we're about to see a major crash. That does not necessarily mean that, because if we're looking back here in around late October, early November last year, the daily Bitcoin RSI was overbought, very overbought. Meanwhile, the price of Bitcoin basically just slowed down in the short term, but we still stayed within this bullish trend and ultimately head higher later on. And as I explained in my last video, despite the fact that the RSI is overbought, of course, if we're seeing nearly $2 billion enter into Bitcoin, buying up Bitcoin in just 3 single days, of course, this is going to pump the price of Bitcoin much higher, despite the fact that one indicator is telling us that we're overbought. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, obviously this breakout to the upside from this bullish flag pattern that I've been talking about here on the channel since all the way back down here has so far played out exactly as expected. We've now hit all 3 of my bullish price targets that once again I talked about at much lower prices. First of all, we had this initial price target, which was sitting at around 54.7k, and then we had this second price target at around 56.7k, and then we had this final price target, at least for this pattern right here in the short term, that final price target was sitting at around 62.4k, which we have now hit. And so obviously, if you took this long position anywhere near this breakout, if you opened the long position down there, or even halfway up, if you took a little bit more risk and opened a long position even after we broke out to the upside, obviously right now you've done very well with that trade if you took that trade. And personally, my trading strategy when it comes to trades like this is by the time we hit a lot of the price targets, I've already closed a lot of the trade. I've already taken a lot of profits off the table. But personally, I usually like to keep some of the trade open in case we just continue pumping to the upside. And in that situation, I just move my stop loss further into profits so that in the worst case scenario, if we crash back down, that will just trigger my stop loss and exit me out of the trade automatically in massive profits. And in case you're new to this channel, when I'm talking about these short-term trades, like these breakout trades right here on smaller timeframes, I'm talking about leveraged long positions or short positions, and I am not talking about my long-term Bitcoin holdings. So either way, I'm still holding a lot of spot Bitcoin just in cold storage, but when I'm talking about these trades right here, I'm talking about short-term leveraged longs or shorts, just short-term positions. And ultimately, I'm just using these short-term trades as opportunities to accumulate even more Bitcoin than what I could have already bought. And if you want to take those trades, personally, I take those trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comments. And if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And also right now, there is an exclusive Apple Watch giveaway happening over at Bitflex, but only if you use the link down below this video. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, you might as well get set up or ready to go on one of those exchanges using those links down below this video if you want to get those extra bonuses or enter that giveaway. And if you missed this trading opportunity right here, do not worry. There's always more trading opportunities when we're talking about the short-term trades on the chart. And so make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you get notified as soon as I talk about these trading opportunities where you could potentially make a lot of money. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, right now we have a decent level of liquidity to the upside, sitting at around 64.3K to 64.4K. And we also have some liquidity right here at around 63.6K. And we have a little bit of downside liquidity at around 62,000 to 62.1K. And other than that, we also have a little bit more downside liquidity at around 60.9K to 61.1K. And besides that, honestly, the next areas of liquidity are much lower. And once again, I honestly don't expect a massive pullback down to much lower prices unless we stop seeing those crazy inflows coming in through the spot Bitcoin ETFs. And in case you're wondering what that scandal candle was just yesterday, that quick move up and down, of course, that was due to the fact that Coinbase did indeed crash just yesterday, which I also updated in real time over on my Twitter. So if you want to get those real time updates throughout the day, then make sure to follow me on my Twitter, link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. But this is potentially a sign that retail traders, just everyday people, are starting to come back to Bitcoin and starting to come back to crypto if a lot of people were trying to access Coinbase at one time and crashing the site. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the weekly ETH to US dollar chart. And right now, the price of ETH is about to confirm a breakout above this final area of resistance before we could potentially start targeting the all-time high. And as I've been saying recently on the channel, this final area of resistance is sitting in between roughly around 3.4K to 3.5K based on the 78.6% Fibonacci level of resistance at around 3.4K. And also this previous high, which if we're looking at the candle closes on the weekly time frame, is sitting at around 3.5K. And so ideally, we need to see a weekly candle close above 3.5K in order to confirm this breakout above this area of resistance. And once again, in that case, the next major price target would simply be the old all-time high sitting at around 4.8 to 4.9K. And even if we see a rejection in the short term from this resistance, either way, on the larger timeframes, I'm still extremely bullish, especially in terms of the larger bullish trend. And something similar can be said about the daily time frame. Obviously, we are still trending in the bullish direction. And right now, we're still seeing a lot of bullish momentum here in the MACD, as I've been saying recently on the channel. And obviously, the RSI at the moment on the daily time frame is indeed overbought. But with that being said, of course, just because it's overbought, that does not necessarily mean we're definitely at the top and we're going to see bearish price action. Because once again, we're seeing those crazy inflows coming in through the spot Bitcoin ETFs. And usually, if Bitcoin is pumping, the overall crypto market is also performing very well in the bullish direction. And if we're taking a look at the short term, just on the 1 hour ETH to US dollar chart, obviously, once again, over the last one day, we did see a crazy scandal candle. But with that being said, we did not end up seeing any 1 hour candle close back below this previous line of resistance, which was sitting at around 32.70. And so due to that, of course, the breakout to the upside for this bullish flag pattern that I talked about in my last video remained intact, with the technical price target for that breakout sitting at around 35.20. And so once again, this was yet another short-term trading opportunity that I gave you just yesterday. And if you took this trade, if you took this long position anywhere near this breakout, and if you held that long position up towards this price target, obviously right now you're doing very well. And as for my Ethereum long position that I entered at much lower prices and I actually shared here on the channel as soon as I entered that position, as of right now, I am still indeed holding that long position, which once again, I shared here on the channel. And right now, I am still moving my stop loss further into profits with no exact take profit or price target for that trade. And so by doing that, I am not limiting my upside potential, because by having no set take profit or price target, of course, if the price just continues pumping to the upside, I'm continuing to profit from all of that bullish price action. And obviously, during a bull market, you want to let the winners ride. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm letting that trade just ride this move to the upside and moving my stop loss further into profits, which basically secures profits in the worst case scenario. And once again, if you want to take trades just like that, check out those links down below this video to those exchanges if you want to get those extra bonuses. And once again, personally, I do trade over at Bybit, link down below. And if we're taking a look at the Solana to US dollar chart on the weekly time frame, this was still a highly suggested altcoin in my last comment section. And right now, Solana is running into an important area of resistance, similar to the resistance that Ethereum is running into on the weekly time frame. Because just like this level of resistance for Ethereum, if we're looking at Solana, this level of resistance is based on the 78.6% Fibonacci level and also this previous high, giving us an area of resistance. And this area of resistance that we need to break out above is sitting in between around $120 to $140 approximately. And so ideally, we need to see at least a weekly candle close above $140. And if we end up seeing that happening, if we see a weekly candle close above $140, then in that case, we could potentially start targeting the old all-time high, which is sitting at around $250 to $260. And as for the larger trend at play, obviously right now, without a doubt, alongside a lot of the crypto market at the moment, the larger trend at play is still clearly bullish here for the price of Solana, despite what's happening on smaller timeframes. And so remember, on smaller timeframes, we can see short-term pullbacks and sideways consolidations here and there, but that does not necessarily change the larger bullish trend that is playing out. And as for short-term support, if we actually see a bit of a rejection from this resistance before eventually breaking out to the upside, we could find some support at around $113 because that is previous resistance looking at the weekly candle closes. And we also have some more short-term support at around $100 and more support at around $90. And just giving you a quick update on the breakout for Cardano, which I mentioned in my last video. So once again, this was another trading opportunity that I gave you just yesterday. And since my last video, since this breakout above around 64 cents, obviously right now the price is already up around 7 to 8% as of recording this video. And to the highest point so far, we already pumped around 11% to the upside. And obviously, just for example, if you're in a 10x leverage long position longing the price of Cardano, that 10% move is a 100% profit, doubling your initial capital if you're actually entering a 10x leverage long position, just for example. But ideally, in order to actually properly confirm this breakout, we need to see this daily candle close above this previous high right here, which is sitting at around 67 cents approximately. And if we end up seeing that happening, if we see that daily candle close above 67 cents, then we can be more confident that we're really breaking out to the upside with this technical price target in play, which is sitting at around 87 cents. And so that total move from the point of the breakout to that price target is a possible 37% move, or from the breakout above this previous high to that price target, that's around a 30% move approximately. Or even from where we are right now as of recording this video to that price target, that's still around a 26% move to the upside with no leverage. And so once again, just for example, a 4x leverage long position, if we actually see that move complete and hit the price target, a 4x leverage long position would double your money. And just for example, a 10x leverage long position would turn a 26% move into a 260% profit. But as always, this is not personal financial advice because I don't know your personal financial situation. I'm just simply revealing some possible opportunities here in the short term and talking about my short-term trading strategies. And once again, I take trades just like this over on Bybit, links down below if you want to get those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to take trades just like this, whether we're bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using longs or shorts. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.